DNPC. I'm running out of letters. APRN in psychiatry and wellness.
All the letters.
All the letters.
Oh my God.
May the Lord continue to abide with you. Please give a round of applause.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Thanks for having me. I want to thank the daddies and the mommies for having me. Honestly, when I was told to come and talk, I really didn't know what he wanted me to talk about. But when I got here, I realized it was harvest time, and I'm like, what better topic to even talk about than harvest and how our mind works in terms of harvest, the concept of harvest. If I asked anybody what the significance of this gathering will be, I'm sure I will get things like, this is when we come together to celebrate God and eat and break bread. But the concept of harvest also works in the mind. So as you know, I talk psych, and psych is not without spirituality. Psych, the mental health and spiritual health is so infused together. And that's why even when I see patient, I pray before I see my patient, because I understand that there is such a connection between your mental health and your spiritual health. And so I don't play without praying. I always pray, because the last thing you need is for someone to come to you with a mental health issue and you take it on. I have seen patients before that when I was done, I felt pain in my body because that person had completely dumped their mental health on you, and it can decline you in spiritual spaces. So back to the concept of harvest. If I ask what the meaning of harvest is, it would be that after a long year, based on my understanding, you come together and you thank God for the blessings that He's giving, and you break bread together. The mind works the same way. We have to be able to take harvest of what our mind is doing, because fundamentally the mind is the most important part of our human existence. So in saying that, if you're one person that feeds consistently on negative thinking, then what you will harvest is negativity. If you're one person that feeds on corrupt thinking, what you will harvest is corrupt behavior. There is a correlation between the way we think, our feelings, and our action. So if you're constantly feeding on things that will not promote you spiritually, there is no way that the outcome of what you get is also not corrupt or unwell. I say that to say one of the biggest thing we should be aware of is what we feed our mind and what we allow our mind produce in our feelings and in our actions. I want it to be open. I don't want to lecture everybody or anybody. So if you have questions that can help understand how we can mentally be strong, especially in this country, we're all immigrants. The rules are different for us, and also we have a stigmatization that comes with mental health. A lot of time from where we are from, when they talk about mental health, they're really labeling the person, or this person, so there's a stigmatization that comes with mental health already that makes it hard for us to actually access it. I always say, in terms of percentile, the people that access mental health the most are white people, because they understand the concept of making sure that their mind is well, so that every part of their life is also well. You cannot be well if your mind is not well. So I encourage, especially with depression, when you hear about depression, people talk about depression, they're like, my mom once said that to me, Kilon Sheto are depressed, find something else to do or something like that. But it's beyond you finding something to do. There's a place where the mind needs regulation, even in those kind of diagnoses, whether depression or anxiety, or even other more complicated mood disorders. At the end of the day, there is an opening to express those things. Again, I started with saying that harvest also means what the mind is producing. What seed are you laying in the foundation of your mind? Because if those seeds are not good, the harvest will not be good. It's just the honest truth. There is a need for you to understand, what am I feeding myself? If a situation looks bleak, what am I feeding myself? What seed am I planting in my mind? Because the correlation of that, if you're thinking all the time because something is not going on well with you, and the first thought is, oh yeah, I want you to tell me, baby, oh my God, look, it's the enemy. Oh, and let me clarify, there's a place where spiritual attack does happen, but if your mind is constantly feeding on the negative things, there is no way that the outcome doesn't produce negativity. I would share a story. My aunt once had a time where something broke out on her body, and we were all worried. And the first thing she said to me was, "What is somilata?" And I'm like, "Wait, calm down. It can't be that, ma." So yeah, what's somilata? Like Johnny today, she just came from Nigeria. She said, "What is somilata?" I'm like, "Ma, calm down. Let's kind of think about this." When we found out it was shingles, she didn't want to tell someone. It was shingles. It was good old shingles. And shingles is latent in the body. When you go through stress, shingles comes up. But in our mind, what is someone like that? I'm telling you, for the first 5 days of that mentality, all she was doing was fasting. You have shingles, you are fasting because you think once on your lata, you are not going to recover. So she already premeditated the fact that, oh yeah, it's an attack. If you think that way, everything you do will only produce that kind of decline. And so after when she got better, she got treated, I said, "Ma, everybody know what is on your lata. I don't get it. Why do you have to always go to that space?" I also can give more example of my aunt again. I'll go back to her because I guess she's the one that is the most conditioned. Don't forget, the way we grew up also conditions us too. There are certain struggles that condition us to think that, okay, I have to be on the defensive every time. Any human being that is always on the defensive will always move on guard. And that person cannot be at peace. That affects the mental health too. That person will present with anxiety. If you're always on guard, there is no way you will not be anxious. You will not be anxious. I'll give another example. My mom used to drive a long distance to work. And every time she would get in the car, she would pray that God should blind all the police officers on the way. That's my mom's prayer. And one day I asked her, I said, "Ma, if all the police officers are blinded, who is going to protect the rest of us?" And so after a while, I started realizing that she moves from a place of anxiety, again, feeding her mind those negative things, those negative thoughts because of our past experiences, because of our mental space. And guess what? She's only going to produce anxiety. So after we spoke about that, she stopped blinding the police officers. So we are all safe. I see all that to say, let's just take account of what our mind is. I challenge you today. If Ikore and harvest is the theme, what are you harvesting in your mind? First of all, what are you growing in your mind? The mind is so susceptible. The mind will take on anything that you allow it or you feed it. And when it does, the production is always going to be corrupt. So let's take account of what we harvest our mind. If I choose to see a situation different from what the next person chooses, and my predisposition is to see that situation as a challenge, but I can overcome, there is no way that my behavior, my instinct, my drive will not follow the need to find solution to it. But if you see a solution as despicable, disastrous, every of your movement will only produce that kind of outcome. So I pray as we are in the place of harvest that God will help us harvest the mind. And don't forget, God is the mind. Today I was looking at it because he had said talk about the mind. I started looking at the spiritual concept of the mind. Not even our heart. I think there's a misconception that our heart is where God lives. Actually, your mind is where God lives, because that's where he wants to do the most movement. Brain, yeah, our thoughts. I mean, more thoughts in Yoruba. Ironuwa, lolongbe. Even the Bible says it, as a man is, the man thinketh, so he is. So there is a desire for God to master us in our thinking. And if he doesn't master us in our thinking, then we be master of ourselves. So you can't go running to God every time you're in distress when he's not mastering your mind on a daily basis. And also remember, the devil attacks the mind. Predominantly is in the thinking that he attacks. Even in the Bible, when he came to tempt God, he didn't tempt his behavior predominantly. He tempted his thought process. How can I reach this person's mind to disable them? If your mind is constantly susceptible to the tools of disabling, I tell you, then your harvest is sick. It is sick. So I end the conversation by saying, make account of what your mind is. Every morning, I make account of my mind. This is my mind. I offer it to you as a sacrifice so that I'm not in charge of it. I'm not in charge of it. No matter what the situations are in my day, I'm not in charge of my mind because I don't know how to master it properly. I need you to master it for me. So I challenge you to harvest what the mind does every day. Don't back me on. I don't know if I can use that word. We're learning here. It's really because that you're conceptualizing that this person's mind is unwell. So if your mind is your biggest tool, then give it to the person that can manage it the best for you. Thank you. I don't want to go into I don't know if I'm expected to go into depression.
Yes, please give her a round of applause. She's not done, she's just beginning. So we're going to take questions from the group, and I'm just going to kick you off with 2 questions. And please, if you have a question, just raise your hand and you'll be recognized. The first question, to your point, and thank you for making the clarification about the mind and the heart. Proverbs 4:23, we all know it. And above all, keep thy heart with all due diligence, because out of it flows all the issues of life. So that's one point. Now, speaking to a church like this, that is so Pentecostal spiritual, where everything is spiritually based, can you please address, again, just going to the example, thank you for sharing that, how we can better manage the issues of our mind, particularly come from a culture where there is such a negative concept about mind mining. How do we get out of that mindset to ensure we're taking care of our minds and our thoughts?
I think I should start by asking this question, and if we're going to be vulnerable, we will answer the question properly. How many people in this audience will even seek treatment for a mind disease? And this is tricky because a lot of us will seek treatment for a diabetes disease. A lot of us will seek treatment for a high blood pressure disease. But how many people will seek treatment for a mind disease? He asked me to talk about minding the mind. Part of minding the mind is treating the mind if the mind is sick. And that could be pharmacological or CBT, which is like talk therapy. There's a level of insight you can get from a different perspective. And that's why I like spiritual mentorship in the church. I am very careful with who I expose my person to or my children to. If I can tell that you're not spiritually well, I'm not going to expose myself to you. So even if you don't access outside care, like non-Pentecostal care, which I encourage us to, because I know there's many people that have done physical this year. If you have not done your physical, Biko, please, let's go do physical. Let's go do our physical. That means we need to go do our blood work and all those things related to it. But in the process of doing your physical, also mind the mind. If there's a disease of the mind, if you know you're predisposed to being depressed, depression is a disease of the mind. So also anxiety. And there are other diseases of the mind. A mood disorder is a disease of the mind. If you know there's predisposition to it, there are many of us that if you go back and look, grandmother was always sad in a chair somewhere, and she didn't talk much, or grandfather never liked to go out. There is a correlation where those genetic predisposition can come into our lives too. So it's not everybody that is depressed because something bad happened to them. You can be depressed because there is a genetic predisposition to it. Your great-great-great-grandfather may be depressed, but there was no language for it then. And I'm sure if they did understand the language, they will find it, because one Jaiwe, one Jacob. So I know they would have treated it, but they don't have the language for it. We have been blessed by the grace of God, to understand the mind and to treat it. So part of minding, like I said, is harvest the mind. I think I've said it a lot, but what does harvest the mind is, if you find that all you do is feel anxious, oh my God, if I told any one of us here right now, okay, if you go back to work on Monday, your supervisor is going to ask you to come into the office. Most people here will freak out. Fire me, because we're conditioned to subject under certain anxiety. If there's someone that lost their job here, the anxiety that comes with that situation can literally cause you to go into a mind disease. So asking the question, answering is, how do you mind your mind? Harvest it. What does my mind do in certain situations? When things don't go my way, what am I thinking? When I'm overwhelmed, what am I thinking? When I'm happy, what am I thinking? Harvest your mind. First of all, see what the mind does in certain situations. Number 2, be truthful to yourself. If your mind is always going to a negative place, seek a solution that will work for you. I'm not saying come to my office, although if you come to my office, I will see you. If you don't want to, it's okay too. There are mentorship in the church that can help you talk through it. In continue back Besara, only if you don't speak it out. So even speaking, talk about it. And that's the thing. I think, again, I go back to stigmatization. If you're always worried that, timba sofun, pastor, boya, alright, lagbaja ligbo, and ligbo, you're making yourself sicker. Because the moment you speak it out, the hold of that state of mind releases you. The moment you speak it out, that's the most powerful thing you can do. They always say problem spoken out is half solved. It's the truth, because you are literally releasing a pressure and energy that sits in the mind. The mind receives it, and there is biology and there is chemistry that really backs up this. There are neurotransmitters that releases when someone speaks. Dopamine releases, serotonin releases. There's a state of calmness and problem solving that happens when you speak. So the first step is harvest. Speak on it. Find the right person to speak to. Then be open to other treatments too. Ogun mind for things that affect the mind is not a bad thing. It really isn't. It really isn't. I don't know if I answered the question.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Thank you.
So there were two things that I wanted to ask, and both of them you actually touched on a bit. The first one you said is to find someone. Not every doctor is a good doctor, right? What would you tell someone when they do seek help to look out for in the person that they are seeking help from, to know that they are actually going to nurture the situation, whatever it might be? Are there certain traits, certain habits, Google reviews? Like, what is it that we should look for in someone? And then number 2, you said it very briefly, but you said, you keep your children away from certain people. Oftentimes, the people who need help aren't you yourself, but they're your children. My daughter is not at the stage yet, but there's a kid at a coffee shop that I met, got into a motorcycle accident, and all he talks about is how he wants to die. And I talked to him over and over again, went to his house, all these things. Now, he's not my child, but I think about that for the kids that are going today. As a parent, right? What do you recommend for helping your children, especially when they're not willing to communicate with you directly, and they might not have other family figures that they're comfortable to speak with, right? So yeah, 2 questions there.
Let me tackle the first one first. When I encourage people to seek help on professional level, I ask them to go with a plan. First of all, if you're looking for someone to help you, you want to look for someone that can understand you culturally. We're Nigerians. You want to find someone that can understand you traditionally, fundamentally, who you are. What you are is how you grew up, where you grew up, your traditions, your core values. You want to find that. It's okay to do it multiple times. You may not find it the first time. What? And then number two, I say always going with a plan. Even when I do therapy, I always tell them, come with a plan. Come with a plan, because fundamentally, this is for your own wellness. Come with a plan. What are the issues that you want to tackle when you go in? Go in with that plan so that that person is not deviating for what you really need help from. Number three, are you not all spiritual beings? Even before I move into any space, I'm praying about it first. That God should lead you properly to the right person that can be the right support for you. And listen, it might be more than one time. It might not be the first person you meet. There's a lot of people that have seen me and I've prayed them away because I know that's not the space they need to, or they've strayed away from because I didn't necessarily meet their needs. And it's okay. You got to choose this in a much more discerning way. And I don't know if the concept of discernment is broadly understood. But I say the three things I want you to take out is going with a plan. If you're going to seek therapy, what are the plans? What do you need out of therapy? What are you hoping to get? And be open-minded. Believe me, open-mindedness is important. It's good to go with a plan, but if you are already closed-minded, that situation, that intervention will not help you. Number two, look at the person that has core values that is relatable to you. Someone that can understand your culture, someone that can understand, or at least at most try to, someone that can respect you. I was speaking to a group of African Americans, which we all are, and they one of them said to me, I don't go to therapy because I don't feel like a white person can understand some of the things that makes me a black person. And I kind of respected that. So if it's something that will help you relate with a person where they can reach you properly, go seeking for it. Make sure you connect with that person on that level. And thirdly, go with an understanding of your spiritual space. If something doesn't sound like what the Bible is saying, carry your load and move on. It's not the right person for you. I actually do therapy myself because I have to. And I sat in front of this college and I'm talking about marital issues. And the person goes, I think maybe it's time for you to think about abuse. I said, it's not you. I carried my load and I moved on. I have another person now that does understand my culture, understand my state with us, my core values, and can serve me that way. So you get to go in with a plan. The second thing he asked me was, what do you do with kids? What do you do with children that are more acculturated than we are? My son is here. Some of the lingos that he says, I'm like, whoa, over my head. So what are you trying to say, son? Explain it to me. I don't get it. I don't get it. So I won't ask him to go find help the way it would work for me. But I will encourage him though. I will encourage him to see the signs. And for parents too, part of us parenting our children is to identify the signs. If you have a teenage child, although they like to lock themselves up in the room, I'm busting your room every 2 hours. You know, I go in, ask him every 2 hours, dude, why are you in the room? What are you watching on TV? What are you watching on YouTube? Study your child. You know your child better. Start to see the signs that mimic anxiety. I have another child that I see. Our anxiety doesn't even show up in nothing but physiological expectation. Like she shakes, you can see her feet tremble. If your child is moving into that space and they don't do that before, it's time to start broaching the conversation. Let them know how open you are for them to seek that help. So that reduces the pressure on them to communicate with you. If a child is not communicating, that could be a sign too. If that child is not communicating with you, I always say a quiet person is talking a lot in their head. Any person that is very quiet, I'm like, oh, that person is having constant conversation in their head. Any embarrassed or you go there, that when you're very quiet, I'm looking at you like, what do you think in your head? There is no way that your head is not over processing things. That means if you see someone that tends to overthink that way, it's time. It's time. And it shows that in what they will say to you too. Certain phrases, or I'm not happy with myself. Self-esteem issues, those are also signs you can start seeing in a child. Let me say this to you though. To have a mental health condition doesn't mean disability. And I think that's another problem. A lot of people see it as they're disabled. No, it's actually not. I think a person that can identify it on time is one that is much more progressive and productive. I hope I answered your question.
Yes. Go ahead and ask.
I just want to find out, from a scenario like this that you've given, when you finish this topic that you're talking about, do you find people encouraged to come to you or someone else?
Honestly, I know.
Did you hear a question?
Yeah, I did.
Just
Honestly,
repeat it for
Now we
others.
proceed to my next
question. Do I find people come out to see me or someone else? This is what I've said. Because this is part of a ministry for me, I'm doing the work at the back end before I even come out and talk. If a pastor finishes preaching, I will hope that he will then lead to salvation. I'm sure my pastor does all the time. That's because there's a need to encourage someone to come closer to God. Do I pray? Do I hope that someone's sick? Say most of the time, yes. But I also pray towards that. I pray that my conversation, my words, will move that person into a place of release to go find help. Yeah, and some of them come, and they don't necessarily have to come to me. I just want them to go find help.
all the scenarios you just enumerated here, they apply to maybe one or two persons here. But because of the culture that we have, we may not even be comfortable to come to, for instance, I may not want to come to you because you come to my church.
Right. Yeah.
I would rather someone that you can recommend that is completely out of this community.
Yeah.
Then I can be comfortable to probably speak to them because it's a matter of confidentiality because, like you just said, they're not safe. Not that they're not safe, they're not feeling comfortable
Yeah.
to discuss. They may discuss with you, but they may not say everything that is really into depth. And that is what you really want.
Yeah.
You really want to get to the root of the whole scenario. I
Yeah.
come across people that are very fearful because of so many things that they've gone through in life,
Right.
but they don't talk about it
Right.
because of the culture that we grew up from,
Yeah.
or the culture we still continue to build.
Yeah.
I don't feel comfortable in my environment. I would rather complete strangers. I can say just about anything about my children, because I know at the end of the day, they don't know them. They're not gonna communicate with anybody that is around me.
Right. Right.
I will just walk away safe.
Yeah, yeah. I should answer you by saying the oath of what we do is to protect the person that does come to us. I am bounded by confidentiality no matter what. No matter what, I'm bounded by confidentiality, and I hope that encourages someone. There is a legal binding for someone, for a professional like myself, to hold accountable. And so that protects you. Number two, you are right. You are right. That's why you and I have work to do to destigmatize mental health. There is such a stigmatization with it. Whereas if you saw someone that had high blood pressure, I'm sure everybody will run helter-skelter to provide support for that person. It's the same with mental health. When the mind is sick, the whole body is sick. There is no functionality. So yes, to answer your question, if you're not comfortable within the realms of your environment, please seek out help outside then. Seek out help outside then. Yeah, if I'm going to make a joke, I'll make a joke. I hope it lands. Our president likes to go outside of Nigeria to get his healthcare done. I'm sure even there's one that just passed on. They said he passed in London. Hey, he found his medical health support outside. You don't have to stay in your community to get help. That's the point I'm going to make. You are responsible for your own wellness. And if that security is not in your community, go outside of your community. Remember, I did say though, core values is important. When you do go outside of your community, make sure that person aligns with your core value. It's the truth. And I alluded saying that I do see someone. They are white. She's a white couple. She and her husband. She's white. Why do I see her? She loves God. She is Christian. I know she's very spiritual, and she would not mislead me outside of my fundamental relationship with God. And that's why I chose her. She's a white woman. Not because I didn't find a woman, but because my spirit with her was sinking. I felt comfortable with her. I knew she loved God. I knew she in fact, when we're almost done, we read the Bible together. So go and find what works for you. And do not let the stigma of it hold you back. Again, at the end of the day, even in the church here, where we don't talk because we don't want our business out here, we suffer ourselves still. We suffer ourselves still. And listen, the longer we are, statistically, the older we are, the more we are predisposed even more to those mental health issues. It is true. It is true. It is true. There's a strong correlation with dementia and mental health issue. Very strong correlation. Depression is when you start to lose your memory. These people really do start feeling depressed. We co-treat those diagnoses. I have a few patients that I co-treat dementia and depression together. So the older we are, the more we should be more guarded about those issues that makes us live here longer, stay here longer. God wants us well. That's the honest truth. I hope I answered your question, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. The way you process the mind, it changes the way you think. DBT also works. A lot of time, trauma doesn't. First of all, I should say, trauma never leaves the body. If there's anybody here that has gone through traumatic things and they think, oh, it's completely gone, it doesn't leave the body. Trauma is part of our experiences, and it shows up even when you don't expect it to. So if you don't want to do medicine, that's fine. But there has to be a commitment to going into other forms of treatment. CBT works, DBT works, even REM eye movement, rapid eye movement also works. All of this can only happen if there is openness and willingness, and that's where I'm going back to. Now, let me also say this. There's a lot of times that because we don't want to deal with this issue, we start to use coping mechanisms that do not work. You'll be shocked, even in the church, people are in the church that drink, they're alcoholics. Why do people drink? Because it numbs that part of the brain, again, the part of the mind, temporarily. So you drink, and then in the next 4 hours or 5, you're back to where you the first, class of alcohol you took. Just be aware that if you don't use the right coping tool, you will always use the wrong one. Whether it's drinking, whether it's self-abusing, there's a lot of people that self-abuse, whether it's avoidant, man, you just avoid it. You're just in a constant state of denial. No, kò ṣẹlẹ̀ sí mi o. No, kò ṣẹlẹ̀ sí mi o. Oh no, kò lè jẹ́ mi o. No. Èmi ò understand it. You're in a constant state of denial. If you're not using the right coping tool, you are definitely using the wrong one. And that's why you keep doing the cycle over again, over and over and over again. And before you know, you're passing it down to your children. There's also generational repercussion of not treating. The children suffer. They do. And before you know it, they've adapted. Even without you teaching them, they've adapted that behavior because of the pattern of what they see. Yes, ma'am.
First of all, I want to say that this is an amazing program that should be broadly televised because it's great. The church for doing something like this and commend you for what you're saying. Something that I've struggled with is you see people that are really struggling with mental health issues, and you'll talk to, like, for example, with the pastor, you say, okay, this person, they look like they're deeply depressed, and they'll say, okay, we'll just pray, I want to be able to say, okay, how do we advise the pastors in those? Because in our churches, they're just like, let's just pray about everything. Because God can do, and He can do anything, right? But there's a spiritual place, and then there's just they're not going to say, even with physical, going to a doctor, they're like, oh, let's just pray this cancer away. Yes, God can make cancer go away, but God also created the doctors that can treat cancer and that can treat are adding to it by having this mental health conversation? How do we help evangelize this? What are some tools that we can take back to our respective churches, our respective places to help bring this further?
I think communication on this issue consistently is the first intervention. Again, it can't be a one-off communication, because guess what? Everybody's going to leave here today, take what applies and throw away what doesn't apply. Constant communication. The more you communicate something, the more you normalize it. There is a need to normalize certain issue, and there is no better tool to normalize it than to use the tool of communication. The words of my mouth spreads faster and quicker. So if you can normalize it with communication, that is the biggest, most advanced intervention you can use. Number two, make those resources available. When we share, I'm so fast to share, because why won't you see from my perspective what I've gone through? And that's why I said it here. I do therapy. I do therapy because I understand that prayer works, but God has also given me the resources of this to use. It's part of His abundance. If we can also express that accessing mental health is part of God's abundance to us, then it helps and encourages us to access it too, right? You can go to the store and pick up bread and egg. You're not only eating bread, even though we as Nigerians, we like rice, but I'm sure some of us eat okele too. In fact, Deji offered me amala that I'll be taking home. So you are open to other kind of food. Why are you not open to other kind of resources that is God-given? So first of all, I said, let's communicate more frequently. Communicate more frequently. Also, provide those resources as a form of encouragement to seek. If you don't know where to go, most people will not access that care. But if it's frequently communicated and there's an encouragement about it all the time, and there's resource to help them, people will be more inclined to take it. You know, I have to address something about the pastor and praying away. Yeah, we can pray. Prayer is very important. As a matter of fact, I don't play with prayer. But again, don't forget, when I studied, I said there is a correlation between spirituality and psychiatry. There is. They both are one. Almost, they control each other. There is a very big correlation there. So yes, let's pray. But let's understand also that the limitations should be recognized. There's limitations there. I can't keep praying for manna to fall. Even the Bible says it. He that doesn't walk, let him not eat. The Bible says stay home all day and pray. Pray. Yeah, no, you're going to starve. It's not going to happen. So let's understand what prayer does and the lane of where intervention works for. And let's be pragmatic. Nigerians are very pragmatic people when we want to. So let's be pragmatic. Yeah, if you're not sitting home and not going to work, I'm sure on Monday now, everybody will pack their load and go to work. I came from work because we want the money, right? We want to be able to survive. Yeah, but nobody is sitting home and praying and saying, oh no, basement me. Any go see basement, I'm sure you all go out and work. So there's a place where prayer works, but there's a place where you also have to move in proper intervention. So here's what I said. I said, let's communicate. There's power in communication. Let's communicate frequently about this issue. It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. Let's cancel it. Especially even when there are young kids that are now going off to college. You want to cancel that. Listen, if you're not feeling well, go talk to somebody about it. So let's communicate. Let's provide those resources. And let's also use those resources when they're adequately opened for us. I hope I answered your question.
Thank you so much. We have 5 minutes to close, and so that we can bring our next doctor on to also sort of cap this discussion of wellness of mind. We'll take a question from our mother, And if you could sort of wrap it all up in your closing as well. The question I also just want to add, you mentioned something about therapy for marriages, and I just want you to speak to that, particularly in the church, where there are a number of people and marriages and dealing with issues where it's either prayer or they're not talking to anybody in the church because who wants their business out there. But let's speak about how much therapy can help there, especially when you're speaking to somebody who's not necessarily in your community. And Mommy, your question, ma'am.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Yeah. Thank you so much, Doctor. I just want to ask this question because I understand that, yes, you may have somebody that you know that they need. You know that they need therapy and you suggested it and it's affecting their families and they continue to tell you, oh, whenever you guys say the truth, you deny it, then I'm crazy, you come in and they turn it around and make it your fault.
No, that's where you don't allow projection in, because there's a way where those things can be projected back. If you've done your, I said that's where you have to then step back and say, I've done my part here, I've done my part. Maybe that's when we have to actually pray, because again, that's beyond you there. If you've given the information, you've provided support, there's nothing you can do truly. You can only just pray and encourage when they are open to it. Or we can actually ask them to self-reflect. I like the power of self-reflection. Ìbéèrè, tí wọ́n bá béèrè nǹkan, ó máa ń mú àdéhùn wá. Let them self-reflect on it. Self-reflection allows someone to actually take account of where they are in certain spaces, and then maybe it will help them with openness. But if you've done your part, now all you can do is just leave it alone and encourage self-reflection. I wanted to talk about marriage, why counseling is very important for marriages. I don't play with marriage counseling. I'll say why. And it's not even marriage counseling in the church as well. I'm talking about marriage counseling in therapy. The reason why there's importance in doing marriage counseling or encouraging marriage counseling is because there's a Bible passage that speaks to my can two work together unless they agree. There's a place where the weapon that the devil uses is to always ignite disagreement. And if you don't find tools outside to help you agree, because what happens in that session is that this person has no part to play. They don't have, they're not supporting the husband or the wife. They're just giving you an understanding of proper communication or how to understand what the next person is communication. Miscommunication is the biggest problem that affects marriages, and then lack of agreeability. So that's why it's important to do counseling in marriages, so that the person is helping you navigate what this person is trying to communicate and help you understand where they're coming from, what feelings they're feeling, so that there is agreement. That's why it's important to do marriage counseling. Yeah, the church can do that for sure, but are we going to be able to remove spirituality from it? Because honestly, if I'm doing marriage counseling, I'm not going to tell you, bye, ni kosheti or bye. It doesn't work for you. What works for me might not work for you. That's why it's good to do counseling outside of the church sometimes, because there are other perspectives that will help, that fundamentally helps to improve communication. When communication is healthy, honestly, there's an opening for marriage to be healthy. We're on the same page, because you can't walk well if the playing fields are not the same. You want to be on the same page. That's why it's important to do marriage counseling outside of the church. It's different teaching. I'm not saying don't do it in the church, but it's different teaching and different perspective. We talk about money. How many people in the church want to talk about money? They don't want to talk about money. They don't like to talk about money. That's why other avenues will allow you the openness to talk about money or sex. Not everybody in the church wants it. I mean, the church is, in fact, I'm sure the word sex that I'm calling here itself is really maybe aggravating other people, but the truth is fundamentally that affects a marriage. And the church might not be equipped to handle those issues. That's why it's okay to go outside of the church, find those resources, find the right person to help you navigate those things. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Please, a round of applause for Dr. Anoita. Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. May the Lord bless you. May the Lord continue to abide with you, and may the Lord enrich your ministry in the name of Christ. To sort of cap this wellness of mind in Christ, we will now call on Dr. Moses Olorin Ishola to give us the other side of this, after which we'll then go into the great debate. And as I announced earlier, your dinners, you heard her talk about amala and rice and everything. It's all been packed. It'll be handed to you at your seat, so you don't have to do anything after the program ends. So without further ado, Dr. Moses, a round of applause.
Thank you so much for that talk. Mental health is huge, and it's something we certainly need to talk about. So the theme was mind, body, and soul, and I'm going to touch on the body part. Body part. So I'm going to talk about the physical aspect, not the mind. So if you'll permit me to sit down, because I got to see my laptop here. So there are 3 things I want to talk about. Well, 3.5. And cancer, high blood pressure, obesity/diabetes, and the other half, I'm not going to share it yet because that's my favorite part. Cancer is huge. You know someone that has cancer. I'm not even going to, you definitely know someone that has or that had cancer. And it's something that for the longest time has been taboo in the African community, but it's getting realer and realer every single day. So when you hear the word cancer, it's a scary word. And, you can have literally cancer of anything. You can have brain cancer, you can have skin cancer, you can have eye cancer, you can have throat cancer, you can have lip cancer, you can have breast cancer, stomach cancer, pancreas cancer, colon cancer. There's cancer of literally anything in your body, and it's when there's an abnormal growth of cells in your body that just keep growing uncontrollably and eventually shuts your body down without going into full technicalities on what cancer is. So I just want to share with us today just some things we can take away. And number 1, red flags, right? This is something that all of us can go home with. What are red flags to look out for, to say, hey, maybe I need to go see a doctor, maybe I need to go see someone? Number 1 on that list is unexplained weight loss, right? Your diet has not changed. You continue to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, everything is good, and all of a sudden, you're losing weight. That doesn't make sense. So unexplained weight loss, meaning you're not going to the gym, you're not dieting, you're not really doing anything, and you're like, in January, I was 215 pounds, here we are in June, and I'm 195 pounds, without any explanation. If that is you, go and see your doctor yesterday, all right? That's one of the things. Extreme unexplained fatigue, right? You worked all night, of course you're gonna be tired. You have 16 kids at home, of course you're gonna be tired. But if it's just that level of fatigue where you're so worn down, you don't feel that energy to get up and do stuff. You're able to wash the dishes and iron clothes and do those things, and you just don't have the energy to do those day-to-day things anymore. If you have this just extreme unexplained fatigue, again, that's another red flag that it could be cancer. With the children, bruising, unexplained bruises, right? That's one of the presentations of leukemia, which is cancer of the blood, right? I've said before, you can have cancer of anything. So sometimes you'll see a child that just looks very, very pale, and then you'll see all these red dots in their body, almost like somebody beat them. But where did those bruises come from? That could be a sign of cancer. For those that have little babies, I just had a patient maybe 2 weeks ago, 2-year-old kid. On the table, I was examining them, and I just pushed on their belly, and I'm like, all right, that doesn't feel normal. What is that? Ultrasound, kid had a cancer, a tumor in their belly. So you're examining your child, you're changing the diaper, you feel their belly. If something doesn't feel right, go see your doctor, right? Most cancers, believe it or not, are discovered by the actual patient, not the doctor. Breast cancer, right? For women out there, do breast exams often, right? The doctor sees you once a year. If they check you in January and you have cancer in June, you may not find it again until the next January. And early detection is so important when it comes to cancer, right? The earlier you find it, the higher the chances of survival, of treatment, and things like that. So to our women out there, breast lumps, that's another red flag. You feel a weird lump in your breast, go see your doctor. Vaginal bleeding after menopause, right? Some men may not know what I'm talking about, but it's not for you, right? For the woman, you have reached menopause. The time has come where you're not having your monthly cycle anymore. And all of a sudden, you're having a cycle. That is not a good sign. If you see that, go see your doctor. And to everyone, blood in your stool, that is also, colon cancer used to be something that we see more in like the 50s and 60s, people in that age group. For some reason, over the past year, and they're doing research into it now, we're seeing colon cancer in 20s, 30s, 40s. They usually recommend colonoscopies to be done closer to 50. Now they're probably going to change that recommendation very soon because they're seeing colon cancer in younger kids. So one of the things you can see is blood in your stool. Sounds kind of gross, but look in the toilet before you flush, right? If you see blood there, that is not a good sign. Please talk to your healthcare provider. And then just a couple more things. Cough, just an unexplained cough. Lung cancer can present with shortness of breath and cough, right? You don't have a fever, you don't have a runny nose, you don't have anything. You just have this cough that's out of nowhere. You're not a smoker, right? You just have this constant cough. That could be cancer in your lungs, right? You used to be able to walk up and down the steps. Now you take 4 steps and you start coughing and coughing and coughing. Please see your healthcare provider. And just to piggyback on some of the things you talked about, there's nothing that drives me crazier than people that have health insurance, right? You know how difficult and how, if you came from a foreign land, Africa, where access to medical care is not that good, you have health insurance, you have good access to care, and you are sick, and they're asking you to go to the doctor, and you're like, oh, you know, I'll drink tea, I'll drink holy water, I'll do this. It makes no sense. And pardon my being brash. Like, we are losing too many of our leaders. We're losing too many pastors. We're losing too many of our women for things that are just common sense. Common sense, right? Like you said, there's a time for God. God is all the time. But like, I think it was you that said it. Doctors are not from the devil. God gave them the wisdom to diagnose and to treat. So cancer is something that is on the rise, and that's really, there's different treatments and things that go into it, but really it's those red flags that I wanted to get at. Prostate cancer in our men, you may start just peeing more frequently. Before you would pee 4 or 5 times a day, now you're peeing 10, 11 times a day. It's not because you drank too much water. There could be something going on. Something like that. I knew someone that was doing that for a while, where they were just peeing and peeing and peeing and peeing all the time, and they thought it was just normal. I said, no. Right here in church, we did a finger prick and checked their blood sugar. It was 400 and something. And that takes us to our next topic, diabetes. All right, I'm going to combine obesity and diabetes. So diabetes, the thing a lot of our African people say is, oh, stop eating too much sugar. It's not really just about eating sugar. Diabetes, without going into all the technicalities of it, when you eat, say you eat rice or amala or something, your blood sugar is going to go up. Now, there's an organ in your body called the pancreas that releases something called insulin. When your blood sugar goes up, the pancreas releases insulin and it regulates the blood sugar. Because if the blood sugar is too high all the time, it can cause a lot of issues. So diabetes is when there is a problem with the pancreas releasing that insulin. Your body is not really using the insulin the way it's supposed to. So every time you eat, right, say, for example, your normal blood sugar should be less than 120 if you are fasting, and maybe less than 180 if you're not fasting. So you eat this puff right now. Your blood sugar that was 80 because you haven't eaten anything, right? That blood sugar right now is going to go up to like 120, 130. As it continues to grow up, the pancreas sees it and it starts releasing insulin, and it's going to keep it from going too high. So we're good, right? But with diabetes, that doesn't happen. So your sugar just keeps rising and it stays up. Now, what are the symptoms of diabetes? Peeing a lot and drinking a lot, right? You're constantly thirsty. You'll drink water. 10 minutes later, you're drinking water. An hour and a half later, you're drinking water. You're in church. You know, I can tell you who has diabetes in the altar by the number of times they get up to go use the bathroom, right? We have long services, right? In a 3-hour service, if you get up, well, let me not give you the gist, but if you're constantly going to the bathroom to pee and pee and pee, you're constantly thirsty. Also with diabetes, some of the things you can see, again, you can see unexplained weight loss and fatigue, blurry vision, different things like that. But one of the common things really is frequent urination and an increased thirst. Also, you can have like, if you were to get an infection, it can take a long time to heal. That can also be a sign of diabetes. So I beg you, I beseech you, diabetes is also plaguing our community. There's another kind of diabetes called gestational diabetes that you get from being pregnant. You know, it happens because of pregnancy. Thankfully, most of the time that goes away after the baby is born. But some people need to be on diabetes medicine while they're pregnant. They need to be on insulin while they're pregnant, because if they don't, that can affect the baby as well. So please, let us take heed to some of these signs. And there is one last sign that you see. It's something called acanthosis nigricans. It's a black, when you get this very, very dark, velvety appearance on the back of your neck, and your armpits, and your groin. It's like your skin is dark, or whatever color your skin is, but then those areas, the creases behind your neck, around your armpits, are extra dark or extra hyperpigmented. That sign by itself could also be a sign of diabetes. So if you have any of these things, please, I beg you, see your healthcare providers. Obesity, I'm just going to touch on that in 2 seconds. So, a waist size in men greater than 40 and a waist size in women greater than 35. Leading a sedentary lifestyle, you're not active, any of those things, those two combinations right there can lead to a host of other things, right? That's a risk for diabetes, just being overweight, right? It's a risk factor for diabetes. And it's also a risk factor for my third thing I want to talk about, which is high blood pressure, right? Hypertension is, it's plaguing the African American community. It is really, even just Africans, period, right? Whether it's from our heavily salted diet, whether that's what caused it or genetics, whatever it is, high blood pressure is very, very prevalent, and it is scary. So what are some of the red flags for high blood pressure? No, I was going to be quiet as like a thing. Nothing, right? It's a silent killer. I can have high blood pressure right now with no symptoms. With diabetes, you'll be running to the bathroom all the time, right? I talked all the things about cancer. By the time you start seeing the red flags of high blood pressure, it's very serious at that point, right? High blood pressure, if you know you have it, I am begging you, let me go to my knees and beg all our fathers and mothers in here. Please, please, please use your medications. I speak to people all the time. We do our health checkups here, and I'm like, Daddy, your pressure is 160 something. I didn't take my medication this morning. Why? We call it the silent killer because do you know that your first symptom of your high blood pressure can be stroke? Do you want stroke to be the first symptom that you have of high blood pressure? No. It could be a heart attack, right? It could be, there's something called peripheral artery disease where your legs, the blood supply gets compromised to your legs and your legs start hurting you. They swell up. You see all these veins swelling up in your legs. There are a lot of things that high blood pressure can do that is very, very, very scary, right? Diabetes can cause blindness when it's uncontrolled. You've heard of people having their toes cut off, their legs cut off because of uncontrolled diabetes. High blood pressure is bad. It can affect your vision as well, right? If taking medications for your high blood pressure can add 30 years to your life, and you not taking medications will give you an extra 10 years. Like and that's why I said a lot of these things are common sense, right? Take your medications. Take your medications. I remember there was a time we were doing a health checkup and we found someone that their numbers were really, really bad and they had to go to the emergency room. Their first thing was, no, I don't want to go. Let me call pastor. Again, that mentality. I remember that day. Daddy came out. He prayed for the man in the lobby and said, go to the emergency room. Right? He did his part. He prayed, but you still have to go. God blesses your efforts. Because there are many people that go to the emergency room for the same thing you are going, and they died in the emergency room. So please, let us take our health very, very seriously. Now, in terms of high blood pressure, some of the things we can try to do, a sedentary lifestyle, we have to be active. And I love Celestial Church of Christ worship. I know at least once a week, I'm going to be active. By the time you kneel down, and you stand up, and you kneel down, and you stand up, and you dance during thanks offering, and you go into spirit, you have done good activity for one day. So glory be to God for Celestial Church of Christ. It keeps us active. So if you happen to go to Wednesday, Friday, Sunday service, and you also go to choir practice, you are good when it comes to physical activity. But for those who don't get to do all of those things, just you don't. I'm a believer in just do something. Don't create a schedule of I'm going to run for 1 hour. Don't. Do you know the physical activity I do? When I go to the grocery store, I park in the farthest parking spot. By the time I walk to the store, I've already done walking. I know the aisle I'm going is aisle 14. So I'll now walk in aisle 1, aisle 2, aisle 3, aisle 4. So you're doing activity as part of your day. It's hard to do, to create time. There are not enough hours in the day for most of us. So figure out a way to fit the physical activity into your daily life. Walk. Walking is good. And do a brisk walk. If you have a really, 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 really big house, walk around your house like they did with Jericho. Walk around 7 times. Your house will not fall down in Jesus' name. But just walking, right? That's something that you can do. My children, every time when it's time for bed, they'll say, "Daddy, dance." That is their nighttime routine. We'll pray, we'll dance, and they'll go to bed. So I'll put on the music and they'll dance for like 5-10 minutes. Right? When I'm dancing with them, that's 10 minutes of movement and of activity as well. So just don't make yourself this big New Year's Eve resolution. Just figure out a way to carve, even if it's 10 minutes you do on Monday, that is 10 minutes well spent. Maybe tomorrow you do 20 minutes. Maybe even the 1 hour in one day you did, you broke it up. 7 minutes here, 10 minutes there, 15 minutes there. So let's not be sedentary. Let's not sit around. Let's not sit down and let our spouses bring us water to wash our hands. Standing up, going to the place to wash your hands, doing dishes. Those are all physical activity things that can help. Salt, blood pressure. They're not friends. They're not friends. The rice that you made, you put salt in it. The stew that you made, you put salt in it. You mix it together, you add salt on top. Let's figure out ways to limit salt. And the way we cook, the way Africans cook, they will just take the salt and sprinkle it. Figure out a way how to measure what is adequate to your liking, so that every time you cook your stew, it is 1 tablespoon, not just sprinkling, right? Salt, very bad. Let's drink water. Let water be your friend. Leave the sodas alone. Let water be your friend. And in the interest of time, I want to talk about the last one. And this is something that especially our mothers, I want us to, and our fathers, I guess. You know, one of the most common prayers in Celestial Church is barrenness. I want child. God pray for this, pray for that. Yes, God, open the womb of Anna, open this one's womb, open that one's womb. God can't do it. Again, what are you doing? If you've tried and tried and tried and tried and you're not having a child, go and see a fertility doctor. Again, they are not witchcraft doctors. Okay? There are some children walking around that were born through IVF. IVF is not of the devil. It's not. Right? And I want to say this openly, because sometimes I'll counsel people. Oh, no. That's not what's God's portion for me. IVF is not of the devil. It is literally your seed, your spouse's seed, grown in an incubator and put it back in you so that you can have a child. It is still your child. It is still your child. There are some children you've picked up and hugged that were born through IVF that you don't know. IVF is not of the devil. There's another one called surrogacy. Some people don't like that. Surrogacy. There are some women who just cannot conceive. Maybe their wombs are whatever it is. I'm not saying God cannot do it. I'm not saying God cannot do it. But if you've been trying and trying, that surrogacy you're going for, that IVF you're going for, do you know how many people that have done IVF 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times and it has failed? It's not a guaranteed success. So it is still prayer that is supporting that IVF. The same way prayer is supporting that blood pressure medicine you are using. You still have to do your part. So for those that have tried and tried and tried and tried and tried and nothing is working, go talk to a fertility doctor. And the woman is not always the problem. The woman is not always the problem. That is something we need to change. A lot of our men are the issues. Do you know how many times you go and get an evaluation done and you find out that you, the man, you are the problem? So that seed you are planting is not getting to the finish line. So in that case, you do IVF, they will take your seed and put it at the finish line and you have a child. But because the men feel like they're never the problem, they will never go get checked. So the woman is left carrying this burden on her head. How many times have you seen them praying for a man with a bottle of water at the end of service? Come on, guys. We need to change the mentality in our church. It is not the woman all the time. Every time we do prayer for pregnancy, I want to urge our shepherds, put the man and the woman together. Enough is enough. Because by doing, you're acting like the woman is the problem. Put both of them together and pray for them. Please. Please, because we are, and God is sitting there that, you know, there are times God has said, I have already answered your prayer. Sometimes the prince of pressure is your husband not getting up to go and see IVF doctor. It's not always the prince of pressure. We have to stand up and do our part sometimes. Please. Right? And I think that's it. Yeah, so that was the last thing. Is for us just to encourage each other, the man and the woman, to go out and seek help. All of these things are not of the devil. The doctors are not the devil. Last thing I want to say, I don't know, during fasting, there are a lot of our leaders that are on medication. God said in Isaiah 58, is this the kind of fast that I have chosen? Right? The fast God has chosen is for us to serve, to give of ourselves. That food we're going to eat, give. That is fasting. Right? If you don't eat from 12 a.m. to 6 p.m. and you go and pray, God said, is this the fast that I've chosen for your face to be morose? He gave us detailed outlines of what to do. Now, if you are taking medication that you need to take every day, and because you are fasting, you don't take your blood pressure medication, because you are fasting, you don't take your diabetes medication, because you are fasting, you don't take your cholesterol medication, and it's 40 days fast, and after 2 weeks you're in the hospital for ulcer, for this, for that. You cannot blame God. You can still take your medications and fast. Right? If you have diabetes, that is a different ballgame entirely. Talk to your doctor and say, how can I fast and still take my medication without affecting my blood sugar numbers? God is not going to frown on you. If you have high blood pressure, talk to your healthcare provider. Can I take my blood pressure and maybe I'll just drink water and I'm not going to actually eat? Is that okay? But it is a very dangerous, God has been protecting us in this church for a long time. It is a dangerous game we play during fasting when we don't take our medications. Because all of those things the medication is controlling, it's going out of whack. Yes, there is a belief that God is healing us and keeping those things at bay during this time. But let us also do our part and talk to our healthcare providers on how we can continue to take our healthcare, our drugs during this time. And the last thing, like the woman said before, please, at least once a year, go for a checkup. Go for a checkup. All of this sudden death things that are happening could have been picked up by blood work that was done at your yearly checkup. So please go at least once a year to see your healthcare providers. Thank you.
A round of applause for Dr. Moses. We can take 2-3 questions maximum before we go into our debate. Any questions? 1 second, sir. We'll give our one and only superior evangelist, Pastor Concern. Question, yes. Superior evangelist, Amos Adiri, yes, please go ahead, sir.
Just ask. You can ask your question. Yes, sir.
Go ahead, we can hear you, sir.
It doesn't work. It's not working. It's fine. It's fine.
Is it wrong? Maybe it's called. If I choose to take my medication after fasting, is it wrong?
Yes, so the
Question?
Well, look at it this way, okay?
yes, sir.
Let's assume you okay. I'm doing 3 days, I'm doing 7 days, right? Morning time, because I'm going to fasting from midnight, right? And day 1, break my fasting and I take my medication. So that evening has become morning.
Yes.
technically.
Yes.
So the second day, break my fasting,
Yes.
I take it.
Yes.
Third day, break my fasting, I take it.
It's still yes. Yes.
So what is wrong about that?
So the question is, can I take my blood pressure medication at the end of my fast? So fasting from 12 a.m. to 6 p.m., break your fast, take your medication. The answer is talk to your doctor. Because 2 things. There are some medications that need to be taken in the morning when you wake up. So if the prescription has been written for you to take it in the morning, there's a reason it is written like that. There's some blood pressure medications that are, 1 tablet twice a day, morning and evening. If yours is once a day, technically speaking, you should be okay taking it then, during breaking your fast, because you're still within that 24-hour window. However, I don't know the way your medication was prescribed, what your doctors saw, how they prescribed it, because a lot of times they'll let you take your pressures throughout the day. So if I'm looking at your blood pressure logs, if you're naturally low in the evening and you're mostly high in the morning, I want you to take your medicine in the morning, right? So it's not just, okay, let me just take it today. It may have been prescribed in the morning for a specific reason. So it's going to be based on, what your blood pressures are throughout the day. But that's something that I would talk to your prescribing doctor about to see if it should be okay. But I don't want to get in trouble. Talk to your healthcare provider to see about it. But that was a great question, sir.
My own is just mine is straightforward. There's so many out there, doctors and everything, or this nutrition and whatever. Among them is this Elon Musk and all this stupidity that those what do you call it, sugar or salt. Yeah, there's no need. I mean that every doctor or anybody telling you that you should you can take whatever you have, whatever, and so on and so forth. That even what's his name? One of these ex-governor in those days, you know, and now was saying that saying that he has tested it and everything and so on and so forth. You know, as a doctor, and you said it all, but I think especially for diabetes and all other things, high blood pressure per se, I think one has to stay away from all sugar. What do you recommend?
Address nutrition.
Yeah, nutrition.
Yes.
per se.
So the African diet is one that it's hard to nutritionalize, you know, because you'll see what are the nutrition facts of amala, right? You know, how do you know the amount of carbs and things like that? I had I hope my wife doesn't get angry. So with one of the pregnancies, right, she actually had gestational diabetes, and we had to measure her sugars, right? She would take do a finger prick every time after she ate a meal. One slice of bread, the sugar would go up a little. The day she ate amala was when her sugar went up the highest, right? Amala, what caused the blood sugar to go up the highest? That's why I always tell people that diabetes is not just sugar, it's really carbohydrate, right? But all of these things is literally carbs mixed in water we're eating a carb overload. So we need to, you know, and the African diet is one where it's mostly carbs and a little bit of protein, right? Some people will have dinner, a big grilled chicken, some asparagus on the side, and that's their dinner. In the African home is a whole lot of rice and one piece of meat, or a whole lot of amala neba and one piece of chicken. The chicken that should be the predominance is what we have. That's the stone that the builders have refused. This is what we should have made the primary one. You know, so when it comes to diet, like even if it's hard for you to change what you're eating, portion control. Reduce the amount of what you're eating, right? The rice you're eating, the eba you're eating, the amala you're eating, cut it off in 50%, right? And fill the blanks with water and vegetables, fruits, and things like that. Those are a little bit better. And one thing I just want to add, if I get one more WhatsApp text message from anyone about somebody that is telling me to drink palm oil because it's going to reduce cancer risk, please stop spreading all this misinformation on WhatsApp. There's a lot of things out there that people share, especially in the African community. Oh, you don't need to take your blood pressure medicine, just drink 1 teaspoon of palm oil and mix it with salt. And it's like, please, let us stop spreading these things online. We're destroying ourselves. Yes, mommy.
Thank you. Hallelujah.
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 Is it correct or appropriate for women to stop having colonoscopy or mammogram after age 70?
So the question was, is it appropriate to stop after 70 to stop having your routine colonoscopies, mammograms, and things like that? Breast cancer doesn't discriminate, right? You can have it at 75, you can have it at 80, you can have colon cancer at 80, you know, so no, it is not wrong, mommy. I think it's something that you have to continue to do as long as you're alive. Now, you may have some other, like the mammogram, for example, that's an imaging test. So there's nothing wrong with doing that. The colonoscopy, it's a procedure. So there are some people that maybe are older because you have to go under anesthesia for that. So if it is too risky for them to put you under anesthesia, they may not do it. There's something called Cologuard, where they'll actually just take your stool and test it as to see if someone has colon cancer. it's not a replacement for a colonoscopy, but at least it's the next best thing for someone that maybe may not be able to have a colonoscopy. But the general answer is no, don't stop having those tests because they're screening tests. And the goal is to find a disease before that disease, affects us. Thank you.
Thank you. This is really not a question. It's just advice based on my personal experience. During the Easter time fasting, I do tell my congregants that if I'm taking any medication.
One second.
Hello.
Yeah, I do tell my congregants that if you are taking any medication, please don't skip your medication. As for myself, if it's only 12 o'clock I am fast too, I always, in this bag, you will see my medication Monday to Friday is there with me. In this bag, you will see my blood pressure thing. Even in the airplane.
Clap for him. Clap for him. Clap for him.
Even in the airplane, if I don't feel good, I test this thing and make sure that's within the limit. Maybe because I used to be a nurse, but I do tell my people during the fasting period, if you have to take medication, if you can fast at 12 p.m., take your medication and the Lord understands. Also, Celestial Church are not really okay. Ashakeru is not really okay. Some churches, they will put someone going to spirit, in trance, and be there, no food, nothing there. If that person should have an emergency, you are going to be as shepherd. You'll be responsible. The police will arrest you because somebody died in your church. So be careful as to any kind of message you get as to somebody going to the spirit for 6-7 days, no food, nothing. You have to be very careful about that because somebody might, you don't know what is going on in him or her, and then something in medical emergency might happen, and then the body will be on you as shepherd. And the church, they don't understand your doctrines. They will just make an arrest right there. So please, I just want to advise you, as shepherds, we must be an eye as to how, not just spiritually in the church, but also there are some issues that you need to take care of that are reasonable. There are some things happening in Nigeria that does not happen in America. So we are two different countries, and there are laws. Just be careful as to how you manage your church as a shepherd. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Good job.
One more question.
Good job.
It's a very quick question, doctor. These medications, the blood pressure.
I don't take it anymore.
Because when I
I said, at this age, 2 blood pressure medications. I started eating right. I started exercising. So basically the point is, if you are able to change your lifestyle, right, eat healthy, change your diet, exercise, and things like that, you'll be checking your blood pressure, and sometimes you'll see we have one of our moms here, I'm not going to name any names, right? 3 medications, down to 2, down to 1, right? Because of lifestyle changes. So as long as and it's not like you do it for 1 month and, unfortunately, high blood pressure, it's a chronic disease, but you can manage it to the point where, again, maybe you don't have to take medications. I'm not taking it anymore, like I said, if you're able to make those lifestyle changes and stick to it.